Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name's Anthony and this is my Hasselblad 100 megapixel medium format digital camera. So as you can tell, I haven't posted a video for quite some time. The reason being is I've been in hospital for the last 5 weeks. As you may be able to tell, I'm actually still in hospital, so I'm in my hospital room. I'm going to be in for some more time having more treatment. I was lucky enough to get my camera brought up to me a couple of weeks ago, so it's just been sitting in the room with me, and a couple of Sundays ago I managed to get out and have a little walk around where the hospital is, and I took a few images. So today what I thought I would do is I'll take you through a walkthrough of me processing one of my images from the Hasselblad, and just to show you my intent and what I'm thinking of while I'm processing the image and how I go about processing that image. So just as a quick intro, so this is the 907X CFV100C medium format back. It's 100 megapixels. I've got the 55, the XCD 55V lens on there, and this image that I shot was handheld. Yeah, let's go into Lightroom and I'll show you the image. This is it in its completely raw state, unprocessed. So this is the image in its completely unprocessed raw state. I've not done anything to this at all. All I've done is imported it in, and now we're looking at it. So yes, as I said, this was taken handheld. This was 1/800th of a second at f11. I was shooting ISO 800 on the 100 megapixel back with the 55V lens. Really happy. It was a real joy using this handheld. You know, I was shooting waist level with the screen out. It was really comfortable. It felt really good in the hands. It's a joy to use. It's a lovely, lovely piece of kit. So let's go through the image. So this is the image. I'm not a natural street photographer, so you know, when I saw this image, what I initially saw was the shadows and the light in this bottom left hand middle of the image. I just love the triangle nature of it, and the way it led into the scene and into the image that was there. And then I was very lucky to have this young lady start walking through the scene, so I just stood there and waited for her to basically walk where I needed her to be. And yeah, I think I managed to capture her in quite a good position, and I quite like the composition. It needs a little bit of work, needs a little bit of processing is the term, which we're going to do now. But yeah, give me your thoughts on the composition and how you feel of this as a shot, both in this state and in the process state afterwards. It'd be really good to hear your comments. Okay, so now that we've got the image here, let me take you through how I look at an image and how I process an image. So the first thing I'm going to do with an image is I'm going to analyze the image and see if it fits what I was intending. So the intention of this image was this stark contrast between the shadows from the building behind me and this V of light coming through. That was the main kind of intent of the image, is showing that off. Having this young lady walking in the scene just refines that a little bit and gives it a little bit more interest. So I quite like the composition, I quite like the geometry of it. There are elements that I'm not so keen on. For example, I feel it's a bit tall. I feel the top of this image is a bit irrelevant. It doesn't need to be there. So I might look at cropping. I think the base works very well because we've just got the start of the triangle. The left edge, again, I think having that tree there just holds the image in, stops your eye wandering out the image. And again, the same on the right hand side with this building and the door, being that it's quite dark there, you can see the clipping showing. I think it holds us in the image, but the top just wanders out a little bit. It sort of disappears up here, especially where it's quite bright right in the middle. As I look at the image as well, I'm looking for distractions and things, and this red sign I find a little bit distracting. You know, that's kind of irrelevant to the scene. It adds something, It's there as part of the scene, but I think the red and everything is quite strong, so I may do something with that. The next thing I'll look at is I'll actually pixel peep. Is I want to have a look at close into the image and see how it's performed, noise and everything. So obviously I know I've got some clipping there. There's a fair amount of noise, but I'm shooting at ISO 800, but it's not over the top. I don't think it's too much. I think it's quite nice. As a street image, you want a little bit of ruggedness to it, so I'm not fussed by that noise. I don't think it's too bad, to be honest, and I probably wouldn't do any noise reduction either. I think I like that. Also, let's have a look at focus. Have I managed to get it sharp? So I mean, this is 400% zoomed in. I mean, she's not pin sharp, but again, I think she's sharp enough, especially at 400%. I mean, when you zoom out, you wouldn't tell. If we look at the bollard, I mean, that's sharp. That's sharp enough at least. I mean, again, it's not pin sharp, but that's sharp enough at least. I mean, it was handheld, and if anybody knows, has anybody tried shooting 100 megapixels handheld, to get it pin sharp is very difficult. The body itself doesn't have any image stabilization, which is fine for me. If you want image stabilization, the X2D has that. But because I'm using this for other things as well, I'm not fussed by image stabilization. Have a look at these back corners again. I mean, a little bit of noise in the corner, that's sharp enough. Falls off, you know, it's a bit soft, but it's sharp enough for a street image. That's right in the corner. So overall, technique-wise, I'm quite happy with that. I'm quite pleased with how that's come out. It's a usable image. Okay, so as I process, I think my decision with processing is I'm not going to work on this image globally. I'm going to work on each little element on its own, by itself, and then use that to create the overall image. Sometimes it's easy to go, oh, okay, we've got some clipping here, so we'll raise the shadows to pull the clipping out. That's a bit overblown, you know, on the top of the thing, on top of the bollard, so we'll bring the whites down. That's global adjustments. I don't want to do global adjustments. I want to do individual adjustments for each component of the image. I think that's the way to go with this. The other big question, being a street image, is do you go black and white? A lot of people like black and white street images. It's an idea, but to be honest, I like colour. For this image, I like the colour. I think we lose something in black and white. I like the yellowness of the sun coming through, the warmth of that, against the contrast of, you know, almost the cool shadows, and we can cool them down a little bit as well. I like the colour. I think that adds another element to the scene. So you've effectively got three elements in the scene. You've got the geometry of the shadows, you've got the lady walking through, and then you've got the colour and the depths of colour enhancing the image. I think they're three elements of the image that will make the image work. By going black and white and taking the colour out, you're just left with contrast between black and white, and I don't think that's enough. Okay, so now that we've analysed the image, we need to make a decision of where we're going to start. And I think the place to start is on the shadows. Work the shadows out. So I think we're going to go left to right. So let's work on this shadow on the left. And the easiest way is we're going to do a linear gradient. It's going to be a very sharp gradient, just along that line. Now you have to bear with me with the quality of the video, the quality of the mic and the camera, and the fiddliness of me doing the actual processing. Being in hospital, I'm very limited with the equipment that I've got. So I'm using my laptop with its little mouse pad, which is brilliant, but like when you want to do fine tuning with grads and angles and things, can be a bit tricky. Okay, so we put the grad in. Let's just refine that a little bit by pulling it a little bit wider. I think the angle is pretty good with the angle there. Okay, so let's pull the shadows down. Okay, so Again, we've got loads of dynamic range from the sensor. Yes, I know this is clipping up the top, but I'm more interested in this main shadow here. We've come down a long way and we've still got loads of detail there. That's really good. Let's pull the blacks down on that a little bit. Okay, no, so they're starting to clip, so we haven't got a lot of leeway there, which is fine. Have a quick look. Contrast, is that going to do much? Yes, put tiny bit of contrast, not too much, but tiny bit of contrast in there. Again, as we know, when we're editing images and processing images, a lot of it is trial and error. So we have to try something out, see how it works, and being that it's non-destructive, we can undo what we do. I'm going to do this subtract with a linear. Just remove that from there. Okay. So before and after. So that's added a bit of punch to it. Okay. So let's do exactly the same with the shadow the other side. So we're going to add a linear gradient. I'm going to do this within the same mask, so we've got the same settings. And let's pull this in. Okay. Again, let's expand this a little bit. Obviously, it's quite a harsh shadow on the ground, so we don't want a too wide gradient. We want a very hard gradient to match that. Again, that's made quite a difference to the depth. Yes, it's clipping here, we'll deal with that. So let's subtract another linear. Again, let's do it quite hard through there. Let's just angle that to this shadow line there. Okay. You see it's fiddly. There we go. To there. Okay. So before and after. So in these main areas we're focusing on, we've got a lot more depth to them without a lot of clipping. Tiny little bit of clipping here, and obviously this is still clipping, and we've got still got a little bit of clipping. Let's have a look. Okay. So the way I think I'm going to tackle this is I'm going to do a completely new mask. We're going to do it as a brush. Let's zoom into here. Just pull the blacks up a little bit. That's it. And then we can just paint over these blue bits. So now that we've worked on those areas and removed the clipping, the black clips, yes, you could do it globally, but I wanted to do a mask because it'll also give me, if I need to do any tiny little bits on anything, I've got a mask that I can just touch in. Again, you know, with post-processing, Lightroom, Photoshop, or whatever software you use, there's more than one way to do something, and sometimes it's personal preference, and sometimes it's just what you do or the way you've gone to do it, whether it be slightly more long-winded or slightly more processor hungry. Sometimes it's just the way it's done, or the way I do it anyway. I'm not going to get too hung up about it. Okay, so the next thing I think I'm going to work on is this bollard. So we can see again we've got some clipping on the top. So we're going to create a new mask. First I'm going to zoom in on that area there. 200. So we're going to create a new mask, and I'm going to go for object. Make sure my brush is not too big, and then we're just going to select that top bit. Go. So now Lightroom has done an excellent job of selecting just that section, so we know it was clipping too much. So let's pull the whites down a little bit, highlights down, just to get a little bit more definition in there. And let's add a little bit of contrast. Yeah, a little bit of contrast, just to again bring back the definition between the bits that have got shadow and light on them and the bits that haven't of that top. The added benefit with that, by adding contrast, is you're going to add a little bit of punch to the red. So without the mask, you can see it's quite light and quite bright. Whereas if once we've done the mask, we've now obviously lost the clipping, but we've added a bit of depth, richness, and tone to that red top of the bollard. And I quite like that, because that just adds a bit of depth. I'm not fussed by the stars in this bottom bit being a bit brighter, because that will give a nice contrast again between the black of the base of it and then the transition into that top. Again, although it's dark, it still looks quite bright, and then when we look at it as an image, you really can't tell the difference. You can't really say that it stands out or there's much been done. The one thing that I will be conscious of is to make sure that the level is similar or no brighter than her shirt. So the way that I can do that very, very easily is when we look at the histogram, we roll over the image, we have our LAB numbers come up. So what you're looking for is you're looking for the L channel, the first channel, which is lightness, which is how light the image is. 100 is white, 1 is black. So we can see how light these numbers are. So as I run my mouse over her top, I can see that the lightest colour, or the lightest depth, is 97. So like high 97s. Okay, and then when we run over here, we can see that we are 94, 91. No, it's about 94 is the lightest colour that's there. So now we know that we are not, this top is not lighter than her shirt. That way the eye is attracted to the brightest part of the image, therefore our eye will immediately be attracted to her first before it goes to the bollard, or it will at least move between the two, so that allow us to look through the image and allow our eyes to move around the image. Okay, so now that we have worked on that, I think the next area is I kind of want to do something with this light area on the ground on this triangle. What I want to do is I want to richen it up. Actually, I want to get a little bit more colour. A little bit more colour to it. So I think the way I'm going to do that is I'm actually going to use some either some split toning or some general toning. Let's have a look at split toning first. So we want highlights. So again, this is going to make a global adjustment. Let's see what we do. So we're going to want it yellow. See, this is way too bright, way too rich and strong. So let's get a yellow. Let's take this in here. Now that we've got, so that's a bit too greeny. I don't want it too orange, that's a bit reddy. Something maybe about there. And then we're going to pull back on the saturation. So that's no saturation, it's 100%. Let's have a look. Okay. So that's quite nice. I still think it could be a bit brighter. So let's take the luminance and we're going to just pull the luminance up. It's going to brighten that area. We've come up to 25, so that's quite nice. I quite like that. So before, without anything after. It's quite rich, but I think I quite like that, to be honest. Quite happy to be a bit strong on this. What I don't like though is obviously it has adjusted. It will change these colours of the white of the lamppost and of her shirt. So let's go back to our mask for this area. Let's zoom back in. What we're going to do, we're just going to cool this down a little bit just to remove that yellow that we've added. So about 25 looks quite good. Yeah, quite happy with that. So it's just taken a little bit of that yellow out, just made it back a bit more white. Again, being quite rich in tone, it almost adds a bit of a vintage film look, which again, you know, is a bit cliche at the moment. It's a very in look. Not a huge fan of everything being looking like, oh, let's make everything film look. But I think it adds a slight dimension to the street image. You know, a street image. Okay, so now that we've done that, what I want to do is just take a note of the colour temp. So we went minus 25. So I can remember that for when we work on herself, on this lady. So now let's do that. Let's work on her as the next thing. So let's get her fully in frame. Okay, so she's fully in frame now. So because we've adjusted the tones on the highlights, it will have adjusted obviously her shirt, but her skin tones as well. So we want to get that all kind of back to more of a neutral colour. So I'm going to do another mask. This is going to be a object mask, and again I'm just going to paint and select her. I really like these new masks in Lightroom. So easy just to select exactly what you want, parts of the image that you want. I wouldn't overdo it and go too far, because at the end of the day, you know, we're not creating digital art or AI imagery. We're just processing the work that we've created. Okay, so now that we've selected her, first thing is let's pull this temp back to minus 25. There we go. Straight away you can see the difference that's made to her before and after. It's just cleaned her white shirt up, and her skin tone looks quite nice and not unnatural. Okay, so now that we're there, so let's stand her out from the background a little bit. A little bit of exposure. Clipping on. See, I don't want to create any clipping. Bit of contrast, just a bit of punch, highlights. As we know, we were very, very close to the limit when we were looking at our lab numbers, so we can't go too far. Shadows up a little bit. Look too dark. Again, it's just adding subtle bits of contrast. It's quite nice. She's standing out quite. Got a little bit more contrast, a little bit more definition. What a difference from before and after. Bear with me as my laptop catches up with what I'm doing. Yeah, that's much better. Okay. So now what I want to do is I want to stand her out from the background a little bit more. So I'm going to duplicate and invert mask. So what that's going to do is that's going to select everything but her. There we go. However, I don't want to adjust the whole image. I just want to make her stand out from the background. So now that we're inverted, we are going to go to a intersect mask with a radial gradient, which we're then going to place over her. Positioned. Zoom out a bit. So let's make this softer. What we're going to do is we're going to take the exposure, just going to pull it down, and do the same with the blacks, just a tad. And all that's going to do is that's going to create a dark edge around her that then fades away. So we can see, as we did it before and after, just darkens that area around her. And because we've done a fairly soft grad, you would never tell. Again, before and after. Let's just soften that a little bit more. So I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger, feather a bit more. But just so she stands out against a slightly darker background. Then when you look at the thumbnail, you can see she stands out quite nicely, because I do like the way we've got this white shirt against the black glass. It's, again, as I said, this image is all about that. It's all about, to me, the light against the dark. One of the areas that we're focused on. Okay. And now that we're there, I think the next thing I want to do is I want to look at the crop. So like I said, I don't really like the top of this image. Again, naturally, when you go for street, if you do a crop, sometimes the first place you go to is a square. Square looks really good, but I don't think it works in this scenario, because we needed this bottom corner in. Obviously, we're chopping a head off, so that doesn't work. I think we need 5x7. This is 8.5 by 11. Sure. So I'm just experimenting with, obviously, the different sizes just to see where we're at. Okay, this could work. This is 4x5. Make it as wide as possible. So she's sitting on the third. As I look at that, I think I've lost a little bit of balance. I think there's a little bit too much on the right-hand side. And I just don't like this top in the middle with the window. I think it's a little bit ugly. So I'm just going to pull this corner in to there. She's still pretty much on the third. Yeah, that works. As well, we've got this metal bar at the top, which adds a nice little top to the image. So again, stops our eyes falling out of the image. Have a quick look at lens corrections and see if this does anything. Yeah, it just brightens it up just a tad. I think we'll leave the lens corrections on. Okay, so now what do I want to do with the image? So as I look at the image now, I mean, nicely, I like the depth we have here. We could even bring in a little bit darker. I think we're a bit bright here, and obviously we've got that sign. Okay, so we're going to go and do a linear gradient, and I'm going to start it at the bottom of that sign, pull it down. Cool. so we miss top of her head. So just wait for the laptop to catch up. Just pull that exposure down. Radial gradient, which I'm just going to do. So I've just added a radial to that as well. I'll show you the overlay. Again, we'll wait for the laptop. So just through this top section and then into this little bit, just brought that exposure down just a tad. There we go. Yeah, I'm happy with that now. That's just taken that little bit of brightness away from here. So the brightest areas are her and the bollard. And then we've got this nice yellowy tone through the sunshine bits, but still we've got white, which keeps the image from looking too like a colour cast. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to emphasise the difference. I still want to emphasise a little bit more between the dark and the light, and I think we're going to go back to colour grading. We're going to go to shadows, and we're going to do a very similar thing as we did with the yellows, but we're going to do it with the blues. So we're going to select a blue for the shadows. I mean, again, as soon as you do that, that looks incredibly vintage and filmy. So I'm just going to back it off a little bit. About there. So we're just adding a little bit of blue tone to the shadows. So we've got that contrast between the light yellows and the dark blues. Only subtle. Okay, and then I'm going to go back into our masks. So of these dark areas, I'm just going to pull the exposure down a little bit, just to get a little bit more depth into those shallows. Okay. Yeah, I quite like that. So a little trick in Lightroom is I'm just going to hit the L key twice. It's called lights out, and then that just gives you a black screen to look at. Yeah, I really like that image. I quite like that. The processing is quite subtle. Just looking at that red sign, do we need to make any adjustments there? Maybe we could make a slight adjustment. Again, right, this is going to take some processing power. So let's go to the sign. We'll go create a new mask, object. I'm going to select that sign. Just pull the saturation down on it. Again, only subtly. I think that's worked a little bit. However, we've got quite a bright section right down the middle. So let's add. I'm going to add a brush. Just going to paint in across that bit, and we'll come in across into the window as well. That. Let's grab our whites. Just pull back on the whites. Work on our highlights a tad. Some of this, because the laptop's is processing this very slowly, half of it is guessing because I can't get a real-time adjustment, which is quite frustrating, but we will live with it. Okay, so I think that's made a nice little difference. Again, as I look at the image, I'm just double checking to see if there's any areas that I think need an adjustment or a change or anything like that. Look at the before and the after. Load up. So yeah, as you look at it as a before and after, you can definitely see the adjustments, the darker shadows, slightly yellower of the sunlight, nice clean colour in the whites. The sign's a bit softer. You can tell there's a difference, but actually it's quite subtle. It's not, I don't think it's over the top. You tell me, what do you think? Do you like the image? Do you like the processing? Is there anything different that you would do? I'd be very interested to hear what you've got to say. So please let me know. Leave a comment down below. I look forward to hearing what you've got to say. Like I said, I'm not really a massive. I don't really do a lot of street photography. It's a new discipline to me. So I'm looking at it from my point of view. It might be a terrible image that you think no, it doesn't work, or it might be a really good image. Tell me what you think. I'd love to know. Thank you for watching. Please, like I said, leave me some comments on the image, what you think of the image. If you've got any questions about the Hasselblad or the processing or anything, please ask them below. I'd love you to like my channel and subscribe, please. That's really good. And thank you to everybody that has subscribed in the last few months. Sorry it's been so long since the last video. However, it's been a bit out of my hands. I hope to get. I've got a little project for the next couple of weeks while I'm in hospital, which I hope to get out at some point. Just depends on how I do and how my treatment goes. Okay, thank you for watching, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.